The flash crash is here. Today we'll break it down for you, try to figure out why all this is happening. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. I want to thank our sponsor today. That's Salt Lending. Right now is the way that you can start to leverage some of your assets when the market is weak, because guess what? The market starts to go up. Your position in terms of your value that's locked into your loan, well, it all starts to perform really well. And Salt Lending is where you can get loans on your crypto. Just start over there at saltlending.com. You can unlock the wealth potential of your Bitcoin. And it works very well because you can also deploy Salt Shield, which is a new way to actually get into a no liquidation solution. So that, and I know that's what a lot of people are concerned about when they do take loans on crypto. But this is the way that you don't take profits, guys. Take loans. Work against that on long-term holding. That's a way to build wealth. Check out our link. It does help the channel. Let's go over and lead off with what's happening in the market. This is where it gets a little confusing because there's a lot of different directions here. Stocks are rising like the U.S. economy is soaring. We know it's not. Oil prices are falling like we're entering a recession. We think that might be happening. Gold is rising like the Fed is cutting rates to inflation. Yeah, well, that might be happening. Bitcoin is falling like Fed rates are postponed. That's not necessarily the case. And you can kind of see what we're dealing with is a lot of different angles here around many of the markets in general, but we are definitely entering a new monetary policy. Now, I think that will be the lead out going forward. Most people are just saying, why is this happening? Most likely, it looks like a lot of this was based on leverage. Many people will get frothy. The market likes to retrace those, and I think that's essentially what's been going on. If you look at this right here, $1 billion of worth of crypto longs were liquidated just in the past 30, and this happened on the 22nd and early in the day. So people were moving overnight on this. And if you look at just in general, now we've got a lot of Tether starting to be minted. So are we in a position where people are prepping to go in and start to purchase? Well, some of them have already started to purchase as of today. And if you look at just the altcoin season and the fear and greed side of things, you can kind of see right there, fear and greed holding in at neutral right now, even though the market is still significantly up overall, but holding at neutral right now. If you look at the CNN fear and greed, this is on traditional markets, greed is still on top. And of course, that's in alignment with what traditional assets are doing out there from the treasury side of things. Other things I want to hit on is this right here. BNB smashes a record. This, of course, is building around CZ's political lifeline, and this all comes from the potential of Donald Trump doing something a little bit unusual, and that is, could we see a pardon for CZ? Now, there is a lot of interesting connections to CZ, BNB, and World Liberty Finance, and that's something that you have to pay attention to because World Liberty Fi is now the single largest asset within the Binance ecosystem, largely due to a $2 billion investment routed through Trump's USD1 stablecoin. And remember, BNB or Binance got in trouble for this, working on the Tether side of things. So take it for what it is, understand where these things are going, and then step back and kind of understand why the markets are moving in that direction. And you start to kind of open your eyes a little bit. If you look at the poly market on this, will Trump pardon CZ? It's kind of trending down. I think this might be wrong. I think he might pull it off and actually do one. If he does, this is the potential of who gets a pardon, even though the percentages based on that, you have Roger Ver in there, Steve Bannon, Santos is in there, Eric Adams, etc. But the point being is that I'm surprised. Sam Bankman-Fried, 7% on that one. I don't think, that would be a different one. But CZ, 42%, even though the overall piece is trending down. Let me know what you guys think of World Liberty Fi in the comments. I'm just kind of curious on your input. This looks a little sketchy, and when you see sketch, sometimes you just have to call it out for what it is. Other things you have to look at right now is where the market is starting to trend to. Warren Buffett's indicator hits 220% for the first time in history. Stock market topped at 190 during the dot-com bomb. And I think that's an interesting point to look at. Now, granted, everybody will say, well, that was a different time. Paul, yes. Timing was a little different. Yes, you could look at inflationary capture as being a part of how the market is up. And yes, that would be maybe a comparison there. Because many people would look at where we are right now as maybe like 1996, 97, which was where we were just getting started which would go to a very frothy over-the-top market that ended in 2000. So that I do agree with. The other thing that gets a little scary is the U.S. Housing market now has reached its most unaffordable level in history. And guys, this is the first time I think, I say this a lot on my X account, but I'm going to say it here as well. And I think that it is time to move away from real estate. I don't know that this is, unless we see a major retracement in the market to at least get back to housing prices that were somewhat affordable. I just don't know how you could buy the top here in any store of value and look at real estate. I think digital assets are the only way. And for the young people that are under 40, not financial advice, but I think this is the only route is digital assets. Buying a home is definitely not going to be in the cards until we see a reset of the market. Now that's very possible that it could happen. I want to go to a clip real quick because this clip will get into whether or not this is the top. This is Raoul Pal and one of his research team. Take a look.
There's so much fear in the space, and I guess we start at top level of, like, where the hell are we?
It just feels like the scar tissue from the last cycle, which we all felt, is manifesting in a lot of the commentary that's coming through at the moment. It's a 4-year cycle. This is when it has to end. Therefore, it will. You know, last cycle, it was like to the moon forever.
No, even I failed in the last cycle because I thought there was another leg to go.
You know, that there are frameworks out there that are credible, that should say that, you know, this is, you know, a time when things start to get, you know, peakish. But we haven't had the typical business cycle. There is definitely trend exhaustion signals in the Bitcoin chart. But I think that's a function more of the transition into higher beta crypto through ETH, high quality alts, not, you know, a dash for trash sort of market that we saw in 2021 when people were getting stimulus checks, but a high quality alt season run at the moment. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right, and I would say that is similar to, you know, our theory is that the high quality alts are most likely going to be the winners here. Now there's going to be a handful of rare tokens out there that are going to see 10x moves, 20x, 50x moves. Yeah, there are those always. But the problem is back in 2021, there was a lot of those that you could win on. In fact, you could almost throw a, you know, kind of a pin the tail on a donkey type thing and hit on a lot of these. We had a whole slew of those degen tokens. I don't necessarily see that being the case this time around. I think we will see more structured capital coming in. That's going to stay on the high end of where we see the market. Watch these blue chips. Those are the ones to pay attention to. Saylor, of course, is buying the dip right now, and he buys 850 Bitcoin worth another 96 million. You look over here, Metaplanet buying another 5,419 Bitcoin worth 633 million, outdoing Saylor there on that purchase. So you can see there are people out there that are going after this dip because these dips don't necessarily come often. And this is an opportunity, especially if you're brand new to crypto. Maybe today is the good day to enter. Anytime you see red in the market like this and you're brand new to something, don't assume that that's a bad thing. It might actually be a good thing, and we're setting in a position right now where you could start to grab up a lot of these high-quality alts and start to position overall for the next leg up. ETH, of course, faced its biggest liquidation. This was a cascade since 2021. A couple of points within this. If you look at just what people are doing when ETH is dipping down at this point, I think a lot of people are now starting to look at Ethereum as a definite possibility of a retracement up. And I think this is the key right here, because remember, last week we actually showed a couple of tweets of Tom Lee and his research team, and they were talking about this issue of around 4,200 being the potential of where we could see a retracement to. Is that what we're seeing right now as we start to lead into Ethereum going to its next level? If you look at the strategic reserve, what I've done here is I've just popped this out on the chart, and that big orange bubble right there, well, that's Tom Lee and Bitminer going in and grabbing a whole ton of it. You can kind of see it right there, 264,000 in Ethereum just in the past week. So continuing to stack tokens. And if you look at this right now, Bitmain's Ethereum holdings now top 2% of the supply with 2.4 million ETH. And they're trying to get to 5% of the supply, which would be unbelievable in terms of value overall. And I think this is something to keep a close eye on, which is why I think we'll see, these high quality alts continue to run. Ethereum, does it see its way into 7K or even a 10K position toward the end of the year? Tom Lee is pointing at over 200K Bitcoin by end of year. It's still early, guys. It's still September. We haven't seen Q4 start. So this is just a lull in the market. Get ready. I think we're going to see some moves. Stocks just saw, and here's one reason, stocks just saw its largest weekly inflow all year from retail investment. So we do see retail starting to rotate in, and as we start to see all-time highs on the S&P 500, once we see retracement on that and profits are taken, they'll be looking for risk markets. That is where you might start to see some of these mid caps, which kind of correlate to altcoins going forward. Another big news item was this right here, and this was AgriForce. This is basically they're launching as a Avalanche focused company for a DAT, and so a digital asset treasury. The interesting point behind this is all led by not only Scaramucci, but it's also led by KKR, JP Morgan Chase, Apollo. And remember, you've got a lot going on here because there is a lot of connection. If I go further in the article right here, 50 institutional crypto native investors, including Parafide, Galaxy, DCG, Kraken, Cypher. I mean, you see the list right there. Point being is that Anthony Scaramucci is in a position right now with Skybridge to potentially line up to a huge move for Avalanche. This could be the biggest one ever, and maybe this is the one that actually starts to win on these secondary ETFs and also on these secondary digital asset treasuries. I'm watching Avalanche in a big way because maybe finally we're starting to see some movements here. I want to go to the clip that Anthony Scaramucci talks about Avalanche, trying to explain it. Listen to what he had to say.
AVAX One, that's a company aiming to maximize ownership of AVAX, which is a native token of Avalanche, just to confuse you a little more, the blockchain used by BlackRock and Visa.
And we're going to have a digital asset treasury for Avalanche. It's a smaller token in terms of market cap relative to the bigger ones, but lots of big corporate CTOs, Andrew, are picking up Avalanche as part of their story to tokenize their funds. They have something called subnets so that you can do some customization on the chain through the contract layering.
They've fallen a bit, but obviously they were on a run also.
Yeah, listen, September's typically the worst month for the cryptocurrency businesses. Some of it has to do with tax selling. You'll see November into December, I think, being good buying periods, and still a tremendous amount of demand for the assets. Remember, you guys were kind enough to bring me on the show in October of 2020, where we made our first Bitcoin investment, and it was around 20,000. Yeah. And people lambasted us and said that it was internet magic money.
All right, so one thing that you'll notice, his performance on Bitcoin, very good. They didn't necessarily get in line with what was happening with Solana, but I think he might be onto something here with Avalanche because he's opening up a new market that hasn't existed, and that's kind of the uniqueness here for Skybridge. So that could be a very positive thing for a lot of investors starting to go into this. So let me know in the comments what you guys would do. How would you play this out? Would you go into a digital asset treasury company like this one? Would you go after the token, go after chasing yields? How would you create a strategy? Other things that could start to move the market is this speech right here. Even though that date is a few days ago, this is actually happening tomorrow. So when Chair Powell delivers his speech, there's two things that could happen here, guys. He could get a little bit more hawkish, or he could come in and say, I'm feeling pretty good. The market is in a position where I think we're ready. And if that happens, meaning he's more dovish on the potential of us seeing more rate cuts, which would solidify October, then this would move markets, and maybe that is the kind of thing that we will see to help spin this around, at least in the short term. All right, so just think about that, guys, because we are dealing with a lot of variables in the market. I think Powell is going to position. We are also looking at all-time high on gold, all-time high on S&P. This is going to see some rotation, and I think we're in for a last leg. So let's just see how this plays out through the end of September. Is October really the month where we could see unbelievable gains? And then how would you play that? I think that's the question mark that everybody has, is how do you play this out toward the end of the year? When do you take profits? Let me know in the comments. If you guys are not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that right now. Just visit paulbaronnetwork.com. You can sign up for free. We'll leave a link down below. It's absolutely cool because it's an email to you guys. We drop additional research. I also give you some insights as to how I'm playing the markets. And of course, follow me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.